Michaela joined the GSQ in 2008. Since then, she's been involved in a large number of regional assessments, including spatial analyses, geostorage, groundwater, hydrocarbon targets and coal. And today, Michaela, we're talking about the Fort Cooper coal measures. Those of you from the Bowen Basin will know all about those, but today we're going to learn a bit more from Michaela. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. So why should we investigate the Fort Cooper coal measures? Because they contain coking coal and may represent an alternative exploration target for the future. Is it currently very unexplored? And as you heard today, easy resources are being depleted, so we have to look elsewhere, maybe towards more difficult environments. Another reason is that there was no regional synthesis up until now when we published this extensive review, which is available in QDEX, and this is the CR number. So the review is based exclusively on open data sources. So most of the references come from GSQ coal exploration reports, very important contributions from the BMR reports and records, which were instrumental in establishing the Permian coal geology in early 60s and 70s. Bowen Basin symposia, and of course recent academic research, which is centered on the architecture and geology and structure of the Permian, ages, mineral provenance, and some elemental composition. To a lesser extent, we used industry reports, primarily relinquishment reports, because they're open file. Unfortunately, a lot of information is still unavailable because it's confidential. We looked at 200 references, and some names come again and again, and I have to acknowledge Bill Copey, whose tremendous activity in the northern Bowen Basin gave us essential knowledge into the Permian geology and nomenclature of coal measures. And he was the one who established the Murumba coal measures. He named them, and he chose the type section in one of the departmental coal holes. In the south, a name which will be referenced again and again is Staines, who was instrumental in the complex nomenclature of seams in the south. So, as we all know, the coal measures occur in the Bowen Basin, and the two of the morphostructural units within the Bowen Basin are important for us. That's Nibos inclinorium and the Comet Ridge, because most of the data is concentrated within these two units. Most of the boreholes are within these units and along the strike of the Permian coal measures. So looking at stratigraphy, the Fort Cooper coal measures occur in the north, and in the south they separate in two separate units: the Burngrove Formation, which is finer grained, and the Fairhill Formation, which is sandier. Both of these contain coal. So they are all late Permian Lopingian formations, and they are stratigraphically placed within well-known and well-established sources of coal, like the Wrangell coal measure and the Murumba and the James and German Creek formations. So the Fort Cooper and the correlatives are thick, around 200 meters, and locally they are thicker due to structures. Although they have a banded character which sets them apart from the underlying and overlying formations. So what happened is that during their deposition was intense volcanic activity, which produced volcanic ash, which deposited along with the coal. So these ash eventually weathered to tuffs, and this is a characteristic of the focal coal measures. This photo illustrates this highly banded and interbedded character and show you the source of the high inherent ash. We have these tuffaceous sequences, we have some good coal, we have carbonaceous intervals, we have iron-rich intervals. This pink here is limonite, this thick interval is siderite, and also the coal can be infilled with carbonates, with calcite. So that's the source of the high inherent ash. We looked at thousands of coal boreholes, and we extracted hundreds of analyses, proximate analysis from raw coal and fractional data, and you'll find them all in an appendix, in a digital format, in an Excel format in the report. This is just an example of a map. The review contains tens of maps, and you'll see, for example, the different symbols representing different drilling programs. Some of the boreholes will have labels, that means they are referred into the text, and where possible, like in this inset, we extracted and reported on structures as presented by the coal geologist at the time. You see anticlines, synclines, and faults. In terms of potential, we do know that these formations are extensive, they are thick, but in terms of quality and recovery, this is quite variable locally. So to illustrate this, I would like to read what Copey and Scott said in 1981. They said, despite the low yield which would result from washing the Vermont-Gira seam to an ash content of 15%, the seam, by virtue of its thickness of 14 meters, has economic potential. Even with an yield as low as 30%, the reserves of open cut may be substantial. Since most of the raw coal ash is present in discrete bands, significant ash reduction may be possible by mechanical segregation of coal and dirt. Later on, Anderson in 85 said the better quality seams occur towards the top of the unit and have been investigated to a limited extent. Raw ash content of the Gira seam ranges between 30 and 40%. An washed product yielding about 65% with an ash level of less of 20% and swelling properties is achievable. This type of coal could be blended with other better quality coals. So keywords, high volumes, potential for blending. So these aspects and other unknown characteristics are definitely worth exploring in the future. So in conclusion, this is the first regional synthesis of open data. It's available publicly, and we provide you with a digital data set of coal quality. As was mentioned before, there's a lot of material in PDF format, so this is extracted manually from such PDFs and provided to you in a digital format. And I would like in the end to acknowledge the fact that none of this would have been possible without the contributions of many of my colleagues. It was initially proposed by Russell Darcy, principal coal geologist, as the first regional study conducted by the newly formed Coal Geoscience Unit in GSQ. Subsequently, a number of geoscientists have made significant contributions to the manuscript to ensure completeness and to improve the quality of the review. The following are all gratefully acknowledged for their support, assistance, and critical reviews, which have been instrumental in the completion of the report. David Coffey, senior coal geologist and co-author, has provided invaluable direction and support during the preparation of the manuscript. He has made contributions to the manuscript while reviewing its technical content. David's first-hand knowledge of GSQ exploration, history, rationale, and evolution has been essential and indispensable to this report. Russell Darcy is thanked for critical review and contributions to introduction, exploration, history, background, and the exploration of the southern Bowen Basin. Dr. Paul Blake for sedimentology, paleontology, type sections. Dr. John McKellar, geology of the Bowen Basin. Michael McKillop for vitrinite reflectance. And last but not least, David Green, former manager of the Gold Geoscience Unit, for his support, constructive suggestions, and discussions. And finally, industry geologist Dr. Tonelli from Hale Creek Mine and Bronwyn Leonard from Newlands. They provided information on the trials and mining of the Fort Cooper coal measures. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Michaela. The Fort Coopers are undoubtedly an important resource for us to consider. Our coke and coal resources, which are so critical to the state's prosperity, to our economy, are not unlimited, like any resource. And the potential for the Fort Coopers to provide a coke and coal resource is very important to understand. They are being mined in some areas. The tops and bottom portions of the Fort Coopers are being mined, but it's important that we quantify and understand what their true potential is. The unfortunate thing that Michaela talked about was the only data we have available that we can use is open file data. And I know that a lot of industry proponents, they've done their own research on the Fort Coopers too. So it would be good to synthesise the open file and what the industry information is to get a truly comprehensive view of the Fort Coopers and their full potential. So maybe that's a job for another time.